So as we usher in a new year, I hope this video finds you in good spirits. But speaking of good spirits, we've got to talk about Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners, where Brent Venables continues to get huge news on the defensive side of the football, and the Oklahoma Sooners remain active in the transfer portal, both of which we have got to discuss today. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you excited that Woodi Washington returns to Oklahoma for yet another year? And let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And where do we begin? Do we begin with the good news and the continuation of good news of players returning on this Oklahoma defense? Or do we start talking about the transfer portal? Well, I always find that whenever we have these sort of situations, we always start with the status quo. And the status quo for the Oklahoma Sooners is that yet another senior has announced their intention to return and play for this Brent Venables defense as Oklahoma transitions from the Big 12 to the SEC. And there is no understating how big this is. We've talked about several names in the past. We talked about Billy Bowman. We talked about Danny Stutzman. Then you had DeJohn Terry. You had Jacob Lacey. And now you have Woodi Washington announcing his intention to forego the NFL draft and return to Oklahoma for yet another year. And personally, I think this is a good idea. Woodi Washington, there's no doubt his game has improved under the Brent Venables regime. And one thing, if you want to continue getting better, I think it'd be a really good idea for him to return, keep working with this defense, and especially help Oklahoma as they transition from the Big 12 to the SEC. Because this is not a mutually exclusive, beneficial decision for Woodi Washington. What I mean when I say that, this is not a one-way benefit. It's not like Woodi Washington is the only one that's set to benefit in this scenario. The Oklahoma Sooners will also benefit from Woodi Washington's presence, especially his veteran experience. That is going to be huge. And when you look at this Oklahoma defense, this is a defense that's returned now 5 guys that have that experience. Some of these names are absolutely massive and people thought were locks to the NFL draft, looking specifically at Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman. I think the majority of college football fans out there thought it was a foregone conclusion that they would go to the NFL draft because they are that good. So there's no understating what this means for Oklahoma, especially in a year where you're having a lot of change on your offense. We've talked about the offensive line. That's something Oklahoma's kind of trying to figure out via the transfer portal, via recruiting. But you also have a brand new quarterback. You have a brand new offensive coordinator. So there's going to be a lot of new on the offensive side of the ball for the Oklahoma Sooners. And because of that, if you can shore up one side of the ball with veteran presence, you can lean on that. And Brent Venables is a defensive-minded guy. The Oklahoma Sooners are sending a signal that they intend to lean on the defense. They intend to lean on that veteran experience as the offense catches up to speed. Now, that being said, there's talent on this offense. Do not get misunderstood into me saying that they are going to have an offense that straight up struggles. It's just a lot of new on the offense. And if you can make sure, if you have a bunch of new on your offense, you can help them out a lot by loading up on the experience on your defense. That way your defense can get you out of situations if your offense struggles early on. So I think this is a great move for the Oklahoma Sooners, and it's really impressive how many players have decided to come back and continue playing for Brent Venables. And like I've continued to say, I don't think there's any understating how valuable this is, not only because of the new on the offense, because of the new of the setting. You're not going to be in the Big 12 anymore. You're going to be in the SEC. And having that veteran experience as you transition in so many different ways, well, personally, I find that to be a super compelling thing for the Oklahoma Sooners. But this is not where the good news ends. We also have got to talk about Oklahoma remaining active in the transfer portal. And I've talked about this at length. I've talked about this ever since Brent Venables took the job at Oklahoma. The first thing that stood out to me about Brent Venables before he ever coached a game was his ability to recruit both the traditional manner in high school and in the transfer portal. This is a man that has had a top 10 and top 10 transfer portal class every single year. So I expect him to get a really good transfer portal haul once again because he's shown us time and time again he's able to hit the trail and get big wins. And if someone shows you who they are, believe them. Brent Venables once again in the transfer portal, and Oklahoma looking at a really talented edge. Nick Scorton transferring from Purdue. He stands 6'4", 280 pounds, and he hails from Texas. This was a guy that got real active in the Big Ten, posting 10 sacks and a ton of tackles. And if Oklahoma can add in Scorton, I think that would be a massive win. We just got done talking about how the defense is going to be the veteran unit on this Oklahoma offense, the unit that has that cohesion together, as so many of these guys have played together. They have that experience together. The offense, though filled with incredibly talented and exciting players, they just don't have the time together that this defense is going to have. From the coaches to the players, you get my point here. Going out and continuing to add in talent to this defense is going to be big, and especially a guy like Scorton, who got so active in the Big Ten, where we might question the quality of offenses in the Big Ten, but typically the offensive line play in the Big Ten is pretty solid, and if you can get that active there, sky is pretty high on what you're going to be able to do. Now, Oklahoma is not alone in the battle for Nick Scorton. Let's go through the visit list. You have A&M on January 3rd. You have FSU January 4th. You have Mizzou January 5th. And finally, you have the Oklahoma Sooners January 6th. And this is something we talked about on the live stream last night with PG, with Jay, with Drew. And we were talking about how personally I like if you can get that last visit. Now, the trick is hoping they don't commit before they take that last visit. But inevitably, if they were going to commit before they took that last visit, they were probably going to commit to that school regardless. But the reason why I like getting the last visit is it's fresh on the mind. You get a player that's gone to all these different locations, and you get the final say. You get the final pitch. Personally, I find that to be a very compelling factor, and that's not a new take from me. We've talked about this time and time again as it relates to high school prospects, as it relates to transfer portal prospects. I think it can be a very powerful tool, and if you're an Oklahoma fan, I'd be very excited that you had the last visit on a guy like Scorton, because all of these programs are going to be pushing and pushing real hard because of the production he put up. Remember, in the transfer portal, you're looking for a few things. You're looking for a guy with eligibility left. You're looking for a guy with experience, and you're looking for a guy with production. And I know what you might be thinking. Don't experience and production go hand in hand? You would think, but not all the time. Not all experience is created equal, and not all experience lends itself to a player to be as productive as Nick Scorton was. This is a guy where you get someone with good experience. You get someone with good production, and he has some eligibility left. I think this is a name OU fans are going to be hot on the trail for, but they are not alone, and this is not the only name Brent Venables is after. We are going to be keeping up with Oklahoma's transfer portal pursuits, as I think there are several big names we need to watch, and we will be talking about. But until that time, hop down to the comments. Let me know what you think about Woodi Washington returning. Once again, I think that is a massive win for Oklahoma because it grants itself more experience. And when you're looking, you have one side of the ball that just does not have the experience as the other side. You need to help your offense out. You need to give them time to grow. And one of the best ways to do that, put together a defense that will allow for your offense to learn in the fire. How best to do it than by keeping experienced players that have played together. And then we move to the transfer portal, where Oklahoma and Brent Venables remain active there after one of the best available players in the transfer portal, Nick Scorton. Now, they're competing with several other universities, but they get the last visit, and I always love that. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about both those names. That's it. See ya.